Julius Randle of the New York Knicks suffered a very scary looking shoulder injury tonight when he was driving to the basket for a layup. On the actual play of the injury, he fell to the floor and tried to brace with his arm. And when he did this, he came up and he was in obvious pain. At the end of the game, head coach Tom Thibodeau was asked about Randle's condition, but he didn't provide many details regarding the injury. It looks like sources have come out and officially said that Randle was diagnosed with a dislocated shoulder, and he's going to have an MRI to determine the extent of the damage. Commonly, we will see shoulders dislocate anteriorly, also known as to the front of the shoulder joint, and they do happen on things that are very similar to what we saw on this injury play where somebody will fall onto an outstretched hand, and that's something I want to focus on with today's video. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to my channel. If you're not familiar with me, my name is Nick Gallo and I'm a doctor of physical therapy, and with my channel I take a look at sports injuries and I explain them so that they're a little bit easier to understand. I'll also talk about the pertinent anatomy for those injuries as well as what that person should expect when they come to physical therapy. If you enjoy this sort of content and you want to see more of it, please hit that thumbs up and subscribe to the channel because I will be making more of these videos in the future regarding sports injuries, rehabilitation, and other physical therapy related content. Also, if you yourself have dealt with a dislocated shoulder, go ahead and comment on your experience in the comment section. So we see here on the injury video that as Julius Randle goes in to drive to the basket, he's going to land on that right hand as he's trying to brace himself for the fall, and he's going to get up after that in obvious pain. Here I have a model of the shoulder joint, and for the purpose of this video, we're going to focus on a particular section of the shoulder joint known as the glenohumeral joint. So this section of the shoulder is going to be formed by the head of the humerus right here, which is known as that ball. And that's going to attach to this area known as the glenoid, which is a soft area on the scapula, and that's going to be the socket. So we refer to the shoulder joint as being a ball and socket joint. Those are what make up the actual ball and socket. You can see here on this model too that we have several structures that are located all around the shoulder joint. We have several GH ligaments that are going to contribute to overall shoulder stability. We also have the rotator cuff muscles, which are made up by 4 separate muscles that are also going to contribute to overall shoulder stability. So anytime we are talking about a shoulder dislocation, this is going to be any time when that head of the humerus is going to actually come out of the socket here, and quite commonly, this is going to occur when the head of the humerus is going to go to the front, also known as the anterior. Most commonly, when we see these shoulder dislocations, they're going to be happening anteriorly or towards the front, where basically that head of the humerus is going to come out this way, and it's also going to come down as well. And in this case here, we see that as he falls onto an outstretched hand, this is what's going to form that shoulder dislocation, and this is actually a very common mechanism that we see with this particular type of an injury. One thing that we also see in the injury video, after he gets up, we see him kind of grab towards that shoulder area, and we see what looks like a deformity in the shoulder. It looks like that head of the humerus has already moved down, and we see essentially that area of the shoulder slightly raised compared to his opposite side, which is very common whenever somebody has suffered this anterior shoulder dislocation. You can see right here in the model that as I raise it up here, that head of the humerus is going to twist in the shoulder joint. But as I come out slightly with it like this, if there's any sort of external force, it's going to pop that head of the humerus forward, which is going to lead to that anterior dislocation. When this is going to occur, you can see here also on the model that as I do this with the head of the humerus coming forward, the ligaments that are going to essentially contribute to stability in this area, they're going to be stretched and or torn. And this is something that's going to be definitely visualized on an MRI. Another thing that can be visualized on the MRI is definitely going to be a rotator cuff tear. Once again, those muscles and tendons are not visualized on this model, but they go over those ligaments. So that's going to be something else that's going to need to essentially be visualized to determine his long-term recovery. There are also numerous vascular structures that supply blood flow to the area as well as nerves in the shoulder area. And so it's just very good practice to get this advanced imaging to make sure none of that is involved as well, because that could complicate things. We know that he's going to have an MRI tonight, so we'll wait to essentially see the result of that to determine the severity of the injury. A lot of times when somebody's going to go to the emergency room for this particular type of an injury, they're going to do a technique to essentially reduce or put that head of the humerus back into the area where it belongs. And if it's bad enough, sometimes this can require surgery. When we get somebody in physical therapy for a dislocated shoulder, it depends on whether or not this is the first time they've dislocated the shoulder. If it is, usually they are immobilized immobilized for about 4 to 6 weeks to prevent any sort of repeat dislocation. But if the person has had a number of these in the past, then we can start physical therapy right away. The most important thing is that you just do not want to put this person back in a compromising position for the shoulder that can result in this recurrent dislocation. And that is this position right here. So the person, if they have their arm out and they're externally rotating, you can kind of see here on my shoulder, that's going to pop the head of the humerus forward. And if it's already unstable, this can lead to that recurrent dislocation. Once we are out of that protective phase in physical therapy, we can start to work on range of motion. And as they are progressing fairly well with that, we'll work on strengthening and overall stability of the shoulder. The entire process can take anywhere from about 8 to 12 weeks. It really depends on what other structures are implicated in the injury, but that's usually when we see a person will return back to full physical activity. So it looks like, unfortunately for Julius Randle, he has a longer recovery ahead of him. If I happen to hear any updates regarding the imaging that's going to happen tonight, I'll be sure to update everybody in the comment section. Also, if you happen to hear anything, please feel free to update us as well. So we wish Julius Randle the best of luck moving forward with his recovery. Thank you so much for watching my video today. If you enjoy this sort of content, I'm going to go ahead and link another one of my playlists so that you can watch some of the injuries that I've talked about in the past. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll see you next time.